Alright, here we are another night where there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no one to look up to. All the great podcast themes have been turned into podcast theme parks, and I don't know about you, but...
Hello, baby, I've been waiting for a Christian Slater podcast.
Alright, welcome back to the Christian Slater Monitor. I'm Oswald Ramirez. You can call me Ozzy, and I'm here with...
Reno, Carson.
Yay! And today we have our first viewer request episode. I do read all your letters. Remember to write us here in Hollywood, California at 0690 Roman Polanski Way, care of my son, Claude. And today we're going to be talking about Gleaming the Cube from 1989. Key Christian Slater movie. But before we start, we have some old business. First off, last time we were talking about mobsters and we got to talking about Goodfellas, and I suggested that Debbie Maysar might not have been great for Karen because she is probably pretty Jewish, but Karen was Jewish in Goodfellas, so that would probably not have been a hindrance.
Is Debbie Maysar Jewish?
I don't know. Just the name Maysar for some reason. I have no idea if she's Jewish.
Italian, because I think she has like a cooking show or something.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I have no idea, but I think she has like a cooking show and she's like married to an Italian guy or something.
Oh, wow. Maybe I'm just totally off.
I have no idea. Maybe she is Jewish, I guess. We can Google it.
Then Mobsters, you said it changed partway through a scene or something at some point. It did change in the very first shot from black and white to color. You were
For
wrong.
me, it was not the first shot. It was like it went on for a little while, but...
I disagree. I saw the 2021 Lansky movie with Harvey Keitel. I didn't mind it.
I definitely not. So you liked it, kind of?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible.
Speaking of an old episode, I'm like an idiot, and I am like a Reddit user, which is super embarrassing. I don't post on Reddit, just so everyone or anyone knows. I don't post I only read things on Reddit. But so there's this like very controversial subreddit that's called, I think it's called Female Dating Strategy. So it's called FDS. And I saw that they had a interview with the Vampire Thread.
Whoa.
And they were talking about how like framing it in the context of like Tom Cruise being like an abusive man to like Brad Pitt.
Well, that's how the book really, and the movie kind of, but the book really sets it up as like he's an abusive first husband.
They had like a whole entire thread about Tom Cruise being like an abusive husband to Brad Pitt, a slave holder.
Do you remember anything wacky in it?
Oh God, no, I wish I don't feel like it was that wacky, just besides like the point of view of these people is like super, super wacky. Like everything that they post is kind of crazy. Like they just think like everything men do is like super bad and evil. Like everything on a date is a red flag. Like I guess that's just what happens when you get jaded.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I my personal feeling is that like women just get bored and they like to talk about relationship stuff. They're so far ahead of men all the time on that kind of thing that any strategy would work.
I spent a whole day getting drunk with an older man who just gave me like stock tips all day.
You got any good ones?
Right. Well, I don't know. He was just telling me about stock tips, and then I was like, okay, well, I don't have any money, so like I don't really invest in stocks. And he's just like, well, like if you can save like $5,000, I'll like help you get rich. And he's like, and you won't even lose money, because if you lose money, like I'll give you your $5,000 back. And it sounds great.
That does sound pretty great. You know, in the episode about Hard Rain, I repeatedly referred to actor Richard Basehart as Richard Dicehart, and I was thinking it might be a Freudian slip, thinking of Dyson fans, because I really wish there was a fan boat in that movie somewhere. I love fan boats. Also, my cousin pointed out that the song Flood at the end credits is not by Puddle of Mud, it's actually by Jars of Clay. One more thing, in Dolan's Cadillac edition, I referred to a character as Haitian who was actually West African upon review, and I think I might have underrated Christian Slater's hunkiness in Dolan's Cadillac, but we'll let it go.
I wish I could like talk about Christian Slater's hunkiness in this movie right now, but we'll talk about it later.
Oh yeah, we sure will. That's going to be a major point of discussion. How did you first hear about Gleaming the Cube?
My mom actually suggested that we watch it for this podcast. That was the first thing that she suggested we watch when I said I was doing a Christian Slater podcast. Also, my neighbor suggested it. He said he was going to start listening to the podcast. I don't know if he has, but He's in Paris right now and I'm watching his dog.
Oh, then he certainly is probably watching it right now.
I'm sure he's not watching it now, but he may have watched it prior to this. He has like a very long work drive, so he's like, I'm going to start listening to it. And it's like, that's on you. I'm sorry for you if you do.
This is probably the first Christian Slater movie I was aware of and maybe saw, but probably only saw parts of. I don't know if I'd ever seen the entire movie start to finish until maybe a couple of years ago. I rented it once on VHS and I fell asleep, and then it was just forever checked out or stolen from the local video store. Like a true cult movie where just somebody just took the movie and never returned it and they never restocked it or something. And yeah, I heard about it from my cousin who really enjoyed Christian Slater movies and was also a skater. And this movie was big with his crowd, I think, and became big with me, even though I never saw the whole thing. I think I was under the impression for some reason that maybe it was rated R too, because it had this like murderiness to it, and maybe a little bit, it's kind of dry. Maybe I thought it was kind of adult in some way that it's not.
What is it rated?
I think PG-13.
Your hair, you're looking really good.
Oh, thank you.
Oswald, you're coming back in. The last episode, I looked so crazy. I had gotten bitten in the eye.
Oh my goodness.
So I have like a weird ass eye. Like I looked freaking crazy in that episode, and I rewatched it. I have like a weird lazy eye because I got bit by something. I had to go to urgent care and stuff. So I had like a weird ass eye in the last episode.
I feel like I looked like I was about to go to a House of Pain concert.
So yeah, that was a scary one for us both.
Yeah, you do look good. Your video's working great too.
Oh, great. I don't think I look great tonight because I've been getting drunk since noon. So I'm
Maybe
wearing
that
my
works for you.
from noon when I was getting drunk today.
It's working for me.
Cool. Glad to hear it.
Did you like the movie?
I really did like the movie. Yeah. This was a really fun one. I never watched, I found this huge television when I was jogging. And I was like, oh, it probably doesn't work. But then I was like, I'm going to go back and get it, like, just in case it works. Because it's a huge TV. So I have this huge TV in my room that I found when I was jogging that works.
Oh, wow.
But I was like, oh, I'll watch movies sometimes or something in there, but I like never do. But I did, like a Saturday morning, I did watch Gleaming the Cube, like in my bed in the morning, and it was great.
This is maybe not the most visual movie to test out your TV on, though. I think one review said it was directed like an after-school special, and I kind of agree.
It doesn't look... It's not like a visually good movie for sure.
No, like this guy Graham Clifford directed it, and he was, I guess, an editor on like more very aggressively edited films like Nick Rogue movies. And then he was the casting director for McCabe and Mrs. Miller, but none of that style rubbed off on this movie.
In my opinion, though, like it is like the perfect movie to watch in your bed on a Saturday morning.
It's a great Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon. Yeah, Saturday morning especially. You're right.
Yeah, it's like a Saturday morning cartoon type of vibe. It's like perfect for that. It was great. It was like a good tone to like set the day. I was like, I'm gonna have a great day today.
Are you want to get into the plot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Begin spoilers.
We start off at John Wayne Airport, which is no longer John Wayne Airport because of John Wayne's racial views. It has been, I think it's just called...
That's the Orange County one, right?
Yes, I think it's just called the Orange County Airport now. And we immediately get Christian Slater as something Kelly. I should look this up real fast.
I don't remember what his name is.
Brian Kelly. I thought so. I wasn't sure. Brian Kelly and his buddies are skating on the tarmac, and they rent a plane for an hour with a pilot, a private plane, like a little plane from a guy who's like trying to get his pilot's license, which I don't know how he can take them up without a license.
They have a great day. I would love to have this day.
Yeah, they give the guy $80, so they're kind of like rich kids in some way, because this is $80 of 1989 dollars they just have to give this guy. And he protests, but then he takes them up and tells them they have to behave, and they immediately don't behave. And they post up Bones Brigade and skate stickers all over this thing, and they fly over Disneyland, and they say Stuka's over Disneyland. And then they see a Pizza Hut, and one guy says, "That's my Pizza Hut," where we find out later he works.
There's a Pizza Hut by my house. Well, it closed actually very recently, but it looks exactly like that Pizza Hut. I was kind of surprised One thing I will say is how I actually haven't been to Los Angeles in a little bit, but I was like, this doesn't look that different from modern day Los Angeles. Actually.
Not really. Have you heard that Stuck Us Over Disneyland or Stuck Us Over Disneyland song that they're referencing?
Mm-mm.
We hear it later on in the movie for a second. I looked it up. It's kind of a good song. But yeah, I loved Pizza Hut as a boy, and even into my 20s and maybe 30s, Pizza Hut was probably my favorite of all the chain pizzas, and I would go to a Pizza Hut that looks exactly like this. It's still open. But nowadays, Pizza Hut sucks. It really has a low quality pizza that is just too
Pizza Hut
greasy.
just yesterday.
Oh yeah, how'd you like that?
Well, I mean, I just mainly eat the thin and crispy pizza from Pizza Hut whenever I feel like eating pizza because it's like the lowest calorie pizza.
Sure.
Not that it's delicious, but
When I get pizza, I almost always go for the thickest crust they have
yeah.
because I love bread.
My favorite pizza is a place here in like eggplant and garlic pizza.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Definitely cannot get that at Pizza Hut.
No, I haven't been there since they started having fake meat. I haven't tried that there. And also that for a limited time, they've been having Detroit style pizza, which I like Detroit style pizza because it's very bready. But I hate Pizza Hut so much that it's just like this big push-pull where they're constantly sending me emails telling me to buy this pizza. And I'm like, ooh, I'll get it. And I'm like, wait a second, I know it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds that the Detroit style pizza would be good? I mean, are we even allowed to talk about this? Are we going to get in trouble on YouTube for talking about
I don't think so. I think if we bash a product, we won't get in trouble. But I don't know. Maybe, I don't think we'll get in trouble anyway if we just discuss something. That's a good question.
I don't know what the rules are.
So what they're trying to do is in this plane is they're trying to scout empty swimming pools with no water in them to go skate in, which seems like a blast. Are you a skateboarder? Before we start, I guess we should have asked, what is your relationship to skateboarding?
I've never been like a skateboarder. But I really have like a weird nostalgia. Like I hung out with a lot of skateboarders. You know what I mean? Like when I was a young person,
same.
I have like sort of a nostalgia for it.
I really do too. I owned a skateboard, but I'm so uncoordinated. I never learned to ride that skateboard. It just sat in my parents' garage for decades, perhaps, or a decade or something.
Yeah, me too.
It's just a constant reminder of my failure.
Yeah, I'm super uncoordinated too. Not a sporty person.
I would ride a scooter until I learned how to ride a bike eventually.
Do you remember at your old house, there was like a bulldog that rode on a skateboard?
Oh, the one in 60 Dakota? Or no, where?
It was in like Port Hueneme or something.
Okay. You're right. I do remember this bulldog. Yes.
There was like a bulldog that rode on a skateboard near your house.
You're right.
I remember.
People in that neighborhood are crazy. I remember one time, like, my buddy's dog pooped on the ground and some guy just ran up and started taking photos of us and the dog and stuff, and he's like, I was gonna clean it up, and the guy's just like, you asshole. And then apparently like there was some mentally challenged guy maybe that lived next door with his mom to where Jeremiah's grandma lived, and sometimes would just throw eggs from his window to the other window. That's a very weird, eccentric rich people neighborhood.
That whole entire city / like Tri-Cities area is like very weird.
It really is, because those are like nice houses on the beach, but there are some strange cats. We used to also go to this bar at the very end of the beach called the Rudder Room, and it was just filled with the like strangest people all the time. But there would almost always be like one beautiful girl in there that had wandered in there for the first time by mistake and would never return. You'd just be like, ooh, maybe this will be the day.
Beach towns in general are so bizarre. Like every single one I've ever been to is like very weird.
Yeah, I like the beach town vibes though. I kind of like weird town vibes.
I can see you living in a beach town.
Yeah, I really like it.
Get a little older.
I lived in Carpinteria before. That's very much a beach town. Yeah, I loved it. It was like paradise to me. So yeah, they eventually find an empty pool and they touch down and they just have the guy leave them there and they start skating in it. And we get introduced to the crew of guys, and one of them is actor Max Perlich, who also played Meyer Lansky in the old movie Lansky from the 90s. He apparently could really skate and didn't have much stunt work done for him. But,
Tony Hawk is in there.
oh yeah, whom I still can't really recognize. And
yeah. Hawk is one of the crew.
Apparently all these guys maybe are like big skaters, except for Max Perlich and Christian Slater. And especially not Christian Slater, whom they said did some of his own skating, but when you watch the movie, I'm not sure how much of his own skating at all he did.
Yeah, there's one scene where it's very, very obvious that it's like some other man.
In various scenes, the wig looks better than in others on the stuntman.
Yeah.
It's clearly a taller guy with like a wig on.
It's very apparent depending on the scene.
They all skate in this empty pool and it looks pretty badass, but then Max Perlich gets hurt and the cops get called out and they get busted. I guess this is the first time we see Stephen Bauer show up?
Yeah, the Scarface guy.
Yes.
What, he was married to Melanie Griffith or something?
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I think he was married to Melanie Griffith, if I'm not wrong.
What did you think about, he's wearing some boots, some cowboy boots when he shows up. He's not very happy with being assigned this crime, which is odd because later he's assigned to much higher crimes. It feels like.
Yeah.
His career as a police officer is strange.
And it's I think they live in Long Beach or something. There's a lot of weird, Long Beach is not a wealthy, there's a lot of weird things going on if you're familiar with that area at all.
See, I'm kind of confused. How close is Anaheim to Long Beach?
Anaheim is sort of close. It's close.
Okay. I've been to Anaheim and I've been to Long Beach, but I've been to them both so far apart from when I went to each of them. I couldn't remember if I took the same highways to get there, etc.
Anaheim, I think, is a little, south of Long Beach. It's Anaheim's in Orange County, where Disneyland is. And I think that's south of Long Beach. I think Long Beach is just south of LA.
Okay.
I don't hang out in either of those areas too much, so I'm not really too I only know my ex-boyfriend was from the Inland Empire, so I would drive through there a lot when I would go home with him. So that's really my only, and I've been to Disneyland, but so I'm not too familiar with the area, but neither of those are wealthy area. They're both kind of sketchy.
Well, these guys certainly don't seem like they come from sketchy homes. They seem very kind of not upper class, but middle upper class. In fact, we go to Christian Slater's home and his dad has a convertible family sedan, played by the great Ed Lauder. Then he asked Christian Slater, I guess he sells insurance, and he asks Christian Slater if he had Christian Slater's haircut in it, he thought he could sell more policies. And I was thinking, Ed Lauder doesn't have hair at all. Maybe hair would help.
This movie was honestly, to me, this was a better version of Pump Up the Volume.
There are definite connections in just a little bit. So then we meet his mom, and he has a Vietnamese brother, an adopted brother named Vin, who has a cool mole on his chin, which is, as you know, how Cindy Crawford got her nickname White Vin, which reminds me, after this, I'm going to go play basketball in the park where they call me White Vinegar. And then they play chess together, so we find out Christian Slater, once again, as in every movie, is secretly smart. He's a big rebel. He doesn't try hard, but he secretly is smart because he's better at chess than Vin, and who works really hard and is an A student and really pleases the parents.
He has a girlfriend, which this is this is coming up soon, but his girlfriend comes through the window. That's coming up here in the plot. His Asian girlfriend comes up to the window, and I watched this with my mom, and when the Asian girlfriend came up to the window, my mom was soon.
The Asian girlfriend, this is her last movie. She was only in 3 things. She's somebody in Big Trouble in Little China and something else, and then this, and then nothing else.
She really does not look like Suni.
No, she doesn't.
But my mom thinks that she looks like Suni.
Your mom sounds pretty cool. Vin is played by Art Chudabala, and I guess he's acted a lot over the years. I don't recognize him from anything. They also edits B movies, and I watched this terrible movie called Special Ops from 2010. It's an action movie shot in the Philippines that he edited and Stephen Bauer acted in. They're kind of reunited in that. Not a great movie.
Stephen Bauer, good-looking guy, in my opinion. Good-looking guy.
Good-looking guy. I feel like he may never have stopped doing cocaine after Scarface. And in this movie, I feel like he's super high on cocaine.
He doesn't look so good.
He's always talking with his mouth. He's doing a lot of mouth action. I felt like he was high this whole movie.
Yeah. I mean, understandable.
Yeah, so Art Chupadala then goes to his job at the Vietnamese video store where we meet his girlfriend, I think, and her dad, who is the colonel, and wears an LA Rams hat, which now is back into being current because the LA Rams are now the LA Rams again as of for the last few years. I looked, there's like, you see this Banog Nok section. I'm probably mispronouncing that, and that apparently is music videos, Vietnamese music. And
the Vietnamese looks so cool in this movie. Like, they all look so cool. Like, this is like a little later in the movie, but he goes to this like Vietnamese like pool hall kind of thing where all these Vietnamese people hang out, and they look so cool.
Yeah, that is one of the big attractions of the movie. I think people thought was maybe not that great at the time, that they were like, oh, this movie's trying to be all like, we have Vietnamese people, but it doesn't really care about that or something. And I was like, I don't know, watching it, that's one of the things I like best about the movie is seeing all the Vietnamese people.
Yeah, the Vietnamese people are super cool.
They really are. In Hollywood or East Hollywood now, Koreatown is where you'll find a lot of pool halls now, and it's pretty cool. I don't go much, but I wish I did.
Especially after watching Gleaming the Cube.
Yes. So we see like Vin does computer work in the back, and he's looking at shipping stuff, and he notices inconsistencies with money amounts and amounts of product of something. The score has some funny music when Vin is thinking, like some weird Asian sounds, like what he thinks, like, I can't do it.
Oh my God, this was like another thing that I wanted to say too, is like these people, we were talking about this, like they seem wealthy, right? But like Christian Slater and his adopted Vietnamese brother like share a room, which I thought was like, they're like older teen males and they like share a room, even though they're like presumably from like a wealthy family.
Yeah, and their house doesn't look that small. There are no other kids.
Yeah, it's very weird.
They have a pool, but it's only a 2-bedroom house apparently.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Then he goes and Vin talks to the colonel, his boss, and says he thinks they're getting ripped off. We move to the next day, and Christian Slater has a sandwich that looks really great, and I can't remember what was in it now. I made that note, I don't remember. And then his mom has bought him a helmet and pads, and we learn that his mom secretly loves his skating because she's so uncoordinated. It makes her happy that she could make something coordinated.
I thought that was cute.
Yes, she's enabling him to have
his
fun.
mom loving his skateboarding was really cute.
Then Vin is taken up smoking, and he's ashing in a can of Minute Maid in their room. Minute Maid juice drink in a can. And he's all stressed out. And this is where we get the big pump up the volume connection where Christian Slater lays out his rebellion manifesto. Where he says like, where am I going to be in 2 years? Is everything going to be a 7-Eleven or there's going to be a nuclear war? That's no kind of life, blah, blah.
Yeah, but this movie... This movie is like objectively worse than Pump Up the Volume. I feel like it's like actually much better in my opinion and like much more entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough call. I think I gave Pump Up the Volume a 7 and now kind of regret it. Let's see.
This is a scarier teen rebellion movie for me.
Let's see. So yeah, he says he only wants to live for today. Christian Slater does. Then leaves driving a pretty sweet scooter. And is that like the anti-skateboard? To have an uncool version of a motorcycle?
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Vietnamese brother is like cooler to me. Like he's cool. He seems really cool to me. Like he drives like a cool scooter and he smokes cigarettes. Like he seems really cool.
He drives it to the medical supply warehouse or something, some kind of big medical supply building. And he climbs a tree and gets into an open transom into the ladies' room. Then he tries to pry a box open in a big room of crates and stuff. He tries to pry a crate open and he gets busted. And then he gets tortured, or he gets taken to like a hotel, which is the Atomic Age Hotel, I think, which I guess is a reference to Disney's World of Tomorrow, trying to tie that in at some hotel, trying to be like, hey, we're part of the Disney theme. And I looked and you can no longer go there. That's closed and is now like a Best Western or something, but I'm not sure. This is where we meet my favorite character in the movie is probably Peter Kwong as Bobby Gwynn, who earlier, he only likes to be referred to by last names. Like he calls him Kelly instead of Vin. And when, what's his face, the head bad guy, Richard Hurd, played by Ed Lawndale from the TV miniseries V, he was like the ultimate evil alien in that, in the 80s version. He calls him Bobby. He's like, no, my name's Gwen.
He's just another kind of character who's just, comically evil.
Yes, I saw him in the movie briefly right after we watched this. Right after I'd finished my notes, I watched the movie The Presidio and with Sean Connery, and he just like pops in for a second as a cop towards the beginning. I was like, oh fuck, it's Bobby Gwynn. That's like, I think the only other time I've seen him. But anyway, he tortures him with, they like put a wet towel noose around him to torture him with some kind of version of water towel torture. And then they accidentally
scare him. They want to scare him into compliance and just to not do anything bad or tattle.
Then the colonel shows up and we find out that he's in it too.
Yeah.
And he finds out that they've accidentally just killed him. Bobby Gwynn killed Vin. So Vin's done.
And he has no point in this movie either, other than the plot of this movie is insane and absurd. He just has an adopted Asian brother, for the purposes of having this insane plot of this movie. It's so bizarre. It makes absolutely no sense because it's not even they adopted the Asian brother when he was a little kid or something. I feel like they adopted the Asian brother kind of recently, if memory serves. They adopted him when he was 10 or something. It's not even they adopted him when he was a baby or something. So he's just has an adopted Asian brother, so there can be an evil Vietnamese crime plot in this movie. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, that of course relates back to the Vietnam War, because I guess in 89 and even beyond that, they're still obsessed with
there's
making
weird
movies
Cold
about
War
Vietnam.
stuff.
Yeah, I think that one of the movies I looked up, all things that the guy that plays the colonel in, he's played a Vietnamese jailer in a lot of movies or something at POW camps or something. I didn't end up watching any of them. Though his wife, that actress, she's the mom in the Joy Luck Club. And she's in tons of stuff over the years. She was on the Santa Barbara TV soap opera, and that's going to come up in the True Romance episode because they see that in the background on TV. Spoiler, where there's going to be a True Romance episode. So Stephen Bauer, dressed as a hotel maid. No, wait, that's an actual lady. That's a hotel maid. She finds the corpse and thinks it's apparent suicide by hanging. And then the cops come, and Stephen Bauer's with them, and one cop confuses Vietnamese people for Chinese and says they all look alike. And Bauer's like, no, they don't. And Bauer gets the job of notifying the family. Slater gets...
Bauer's just the only cop in this town. He investigates literally every crime.
Yes. And now he has to go to Christian Slater's house, but I guess he meets Ed Lauder instead, because Ed Lauder's the one that tells Christian Slater, and Christian Slater yells no, and his voice cracks when he does it. Then
How old is he in this movie? He's young.
I guess I think he'd be a little older. I think he'd be pushing 20. I think he'd be 18 maybe when they made it or something. Yeah, 18 or 19 when it was released, I imagine. Maybe 20, you're right. Then he gets, Christian Slater does his angry grief skating after that, where he goes to blow off steam skating, which is a good time to ask, did you understand the title of the movie? I don't want to overly explain because I know the audience gets it.
I do not understand the title of the movie. I feel like it's kind of explained or something a little later in the movie. Some character explains Gleaming the Cube or something, but I don't know. I don't really get it. And there's a Gleaming the Cube song. I don't really get it.
Yeah, the Gleaming the Cube song is not the greatest.
It sounds like Robert Palmer, but it's not.
Yeah, I love Robert Palmer. What's his face? Oh, the Gleaming the Cube. I guess I'll explain it to you. I know our audience is so hip, they don't need it explained. But it's like being in the zone in basketball. It's like a Zen thing when everything melts away and it's just, you're out there riding free, man. You're one with the board. Is
that specific? Is it a basketball thing or it's just something?
Being in the zone is what they call it. You can't miss in the basketball. And the hoop
I know being in the zone, but
okay. I think it's the skateboard version. It's like a version of skate. Yeah, that's what I was trying to compare it to. Skateboarding, I guess it's whenever the world melts away and it's just you and the board and your mind is free and it's just me and freedom.
Someone also needs to explain to me if that's a real thing. Can someone who's a skateboarder in the 1980s tell me if they've ever heard of this?
Or if they ever actually gleamed the cube?
Yeah. please get in touch and let us know.
I know a lot of skaters or have over time. I could probably ask some people.
Me too, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. So after his angry skating, I don't think that was Slater skating there, but it was in that scene, it's a pretty good match for him. Like it's harder to tell that it's not him, I think, in that particular scene. And then we get Vin's funeral, where it's a combination Buddhist and Christian funeral. And
his funeral outfit is.
Yeah, I have Slater's funeral outfit.
Yeah, it's really something.
Max Perlick is in a nice suit and tie, but not Christian Slater. He's got like some craziness going on.
Yeah, it's like a skate funeral outfit, but it's like also trying to be like respectful and dressed up. It's great. It's great.
And then he leaves the White Queen on Vin's coffin and says checkmate. No, he doesn't say checkmate. Then we get more Pizza Hut product placement. We find out that Brian, one of the skaters, works at Pizza Hut. That's why he said my Pizza Hut. And let's see here. Oh, and yeah, in this movie also, you were saying how it doesn't look that different. One thing I miss about 80s movies is when people could just drive around and be in parking lots and you could just see real signs of businesses everywhere. They didn't have to block everything out not to get sued or pay money or get permission and stuff. It's like, I love Color of Money because they go around and you're like, hey, these are real places just in the backgrounds of shots. Nowadays, you don't see anything real.
Yeah, I just was surprised that like the strip malls and stuff from the 80s in Los Angeles look, at least, I mean, I haven't been there in a while, but
no, they do. I live there now. They look the same.
Very similar.
And then now Slater decides that he doesn't believe that Vin would commit suicide. And so he skates the Anaheim Vietnamese area looking for a translator for Vin's notes on the shipping inconsistencies. He doesn't know what they are. They're written in Vietnamese. So
Vin totally seems like he would commit suicide.
He does. Yeah, so this is where he goes to the pool hall, and let's see, and then he just goes places asking people if they'll translate this note, random Vietnamese people. And then he finally finds someone that will translate to him, I think at the pool hall. And coincidentally, Vin's murderer, Bobby Gwynn, is one of the guys with the people he asked to translate it. And so he's like at the pool hall and sees him. There's a pretty good coincidence.
Yeah.
And then we also see this, I think, where we see Bobby Gwynn's car, which is what my favorite part of the movie. Did you like this car he has? The villain?
Yeah, I literally love everything about him and the Asian pool hall. His car is super cool. The way they dress is super cool. There's people in that pool hall that look so cool. I love 80s clothes. That's actually, a lot of people will disagree, but that's actually my favorite fashion decade.
I think the skaters look really cool.
I do too.
If they dressed like that now, they would still look pretty cool.
Definitely.
And the murder mobile that he has, his car, I asked my dad, because my dad always talks about this car he thought was badass when he was a kid. And it turns out it's this car. It's he says it's probably a 1963. I showed him pictures, but it's a 60 to 65 made somewhere in there, Lincoln Continental, and it has suicide doors. I was like, yeah, you were right, Dad. That is a badass car.
I follow another freaking subreddit that's just people IDing cars. Weird pictures of cars. That's one of my favorite subreddits. It's just identify this car from this movie or this weird photo or something.
Speaking of weird car movies, I watched a movie last night, a TV movie from 1986 called The Gladiator, directed by Abel Ferrara. And it's pretty much just gotta be the basis for the movie Death Proof. Some guy just drives around Los Angeles in the night in a Dodge Charger that has spikes that come out of the hubcaps that and he murders people with his car, and then he murders this guy's little brother, and the guy soups up his truck and just becomes a vigilante fighting crime and looking for this murder car. And in the end, they have a huge murder car showdown. It was boring until the end, but their murder car showdown at the end with the murder truck versus the murder car, it was pretty badass.
That sounds like something I would love, but I don't know, maybe not.
It's free on IMDb right now.
Okay.
It had been hard to track down for a while. So it's an Abel Ferrara film. It's kind of what Abel Ferrara did after the failure of Fear City in the earlier 80s. Which is a funny movie because the trailer for it makes you think it's filled with Billy D. Williams because it came out right after Empire Strikes Back, but he's maybe like every shot he's actually in the movie is in the trailer. So Slater goes to the motel. He finds the Atomic Age motel and he talks to the maid lady, and she talks shit to them when he says they're brothers instead of just asking. When he doesn't explain that he's adopted, he just lets her walk away.
That was so weird. He doesn't even be like, no, it's really my brother. Like, she's like, yeah, right, that's your brother.
That's the
like,
end of the conversation.
Stop insulting me, and then he like doesn't explain that it truly is his brother.
Then he figures out he's being followed and he's being watched, so he hides in the parking lot somehow. Then he hitches like in Back to the Future on the back of a city bus. And then the murderer, Bobby Gwynn, he uses a payphone to tell two guys to meet him someplace. And we hear the Vietnamese version of the song Nowhere to Run To, Nowhere to Hide.
I was going to say it's so good. And then there's another one that's like a Jackson 5 song. I can't think. There's two like Vietnamese cover songs in this, and Nowhere to Run To is like one, and there's like a Jackson 5.
I missed the other one.
Yeah, I can't think of which Jackson 5 song it is. It's a Jackson 5 song.
The Nowhere to Run To was good.
Yeah.
And Slater is actually hiding in the back seat of the Lincoln Continental. He's like the bravest man in the world in this movie.
Yeah.
Or young man. Bravest teenager.
No fear.
And they end up on a country road, and Robert Gwynn, this is where he insists on being called Gwynn, not Bobby. Oh, and then he's like, don't give me a jerk-off hand job. The only thing he hates more than first names are jerk-off hand jobs. What's funny about it is he insists on being called Gwyn, but every Vietnamese person almost is named Gwyn, which we get a kind of a thing about later in the movie, but even then I didn't feel like there were enough Gwyns. Because I think that Vin's name was also Gwyn before it was Kelly. I'm not sure if that was actually stated, but I think it might have been. So this is where he meets the Colonel and Mr. Lawndale, who I just took to calling Whitey. And the Colonel produces a pistol and demands money. Or no, I guess Robert Gwynn demands money with a pistol. And then he gets shot somehow in a struggle. And the last thing he sees as he dies against the window of the Continental is Christian Slater. Oh, and then it had a crazy power trunk for being a 60s car.
Before he dies, he gets yelled at for speaking Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Someone has to speak English. God damn it, the white guy.
And then somehow Slater gets out of the car and runs away unnoticed by these guys who have just murdered a guy against that car. And he gets Bauer and other cops to come to the scene and out on the country road, that crime scene. And here's where we start getting some weird interplay between Stephen Bauer and Christian Slater, where Stephen Bauer flicks Christian Slater's ear.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with those two.
I feel like Stephen Bauer, I don't know, he's really antagonistic towards Christian Slater, maybe because of like the way they met the first time on one of his many, many crime stops during the day. He's also a very short police officer in the scene, but I almost feel like Stephen Bauer was like, I was in Scarface, damn it, I need things to do in this movie. It was just always like trying to come up with stuff to do. And so yeah, he flicks his ear here. So Slater tells Bauer about how he's been investigating this thing. Now we go to Yabo's house, who is Max Perlich plays Yabo. There are some Coke Classic cans here, and he's playing Scrabble with his sister. And you can tell his sister's into Christian Slater. Which I was going to say, we haven't gotten to the hunkiness rating here, but would you buy how into Christian Slater she is immediately here?
I think that Christian Slater is very hunky in this movie.
I agree. I was going to say, like, I said, of course she'd be into him. Who wouldn't? He'd be like the hottest guy at any high school.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And Yabo has super permissive parents. Like, they just let him, like, put graffiti all over the inside of their pool. And he's turned their bomb shelter. Could have been a storm shelter, but you don't need storm shelters in Long Beach. So it's definitely a bomb shelter into, like, his clubhouse.
Well, and then after this, you don't see these people for forever. Like, the skate gang. Like, I feel like they just disappear for a long time. Then there's, like,
you're right,
a bunch of scenes of, like, Christian Slater, like, investigating murder while doing skateboarding tricks. Like, and then there's just like him skateboarding, and then there's like a transition shot to like the grave of his brother.
Yabo's mom was played by the comedian Rita Rudner.
Right. My mom was like, who is that woman? My mom like was aware of like Rita Rudner, but I am not too familiar.
In the late 80s, maybe even to the early 80s, but my memory just of like cable TVs, you'd always just be hearing about some Rita Rudner comedy special coming on at some point. She had several, I feel like. Maybe not several, but it seems like she did in the late 80s to early 90s. You can watch clips of her on YouTube and stuff. She's not bad. She does a lot of jokes now that you probably wouldn't do if you're a lady comic about shopping and getting a nose job and stuff.
I would if I was.
Yeah, they're not that bad. Like, she's like, what's one of her jokes? Like, she went to get her nose job, but the doctor had Picasso prints on the wall. She decided not to go.
That's very silly. My friend Mark would love that joke. He like sends me like weird memes, like stupid ass Picasso memes. And he's like, I just love Picasso. So he would appreciate that joke.
Yeah, so then they go into the bomb shelter. And this is a very badass clubhouse. It has a skate ramp inside of it. And let's see. This is where we hear the Stuck Is Over Disneyland song. And this is also, I think, this is also Yabo explains what Gleaming the Cube is here. This is where you get the explanation. And also we see the phone book, and you just see all the Gwens in the phone book. And I feel like there would be even more, but whatever. Maybe they're unlisted. And this is where Slater starts trying to look up all the Robert Gwens, and he goes to different places and sees and calls places and finds out until he finds a residence, like some kind of crappy house where I guess Stephen Bauer has been squatting.
The way that I interpreted the scene was like, I think maybe my mom interpreted the way that you interpreted it, which was like he lives there. But the way I interpreted it was that like he was also like investigating the house. Like he was there like investigating, and Christian Slater was there like investigating. So they were both like investigating the house. Like they both showed up there investigating the crime.
Yes, no, yeah, that's gotta be the truth. But there's something aside from the way he's just there. Like
my mom was
there's
like,
some
so
kind of comfort with like
here.
him smoking or something, or like
Or,
he's
like,
doing something,
yeah.
or messes with the fridge or something that makes it really seem like he's living there.
Yeah, my mom's like, he lives there, like he's Robert Nguyen, or however you pronounce it. Like she's like, he just lives there. I don't understand.
Yeah, it was very strange.
But I was like, I think he's just investigating.
Yeah, Slater asks Bauer what he's doing there. I was like, I know what he's doing there. He's living there. Oh, if you ever want to meet Stephen Bauer, he and the actor Jeff Fahey constantly are hammered together at the Sunset Tower bar in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I would like to, for sure. I need to get out to Los Angeles sometime, but I just like never have. I always go to Texas, but I think the next place I'm going to go is my job now. I have to go to Canada. I have to go to Toronto. So I will probably go to New York then.
I've never been to Canada. I'd like to go.
Yeah, I haven't actually either, but I have to go for work.
People
so
speak
I'll probably
highly
go
of
to New
Toronto.
York because it's only like an hour of plane ride. But I need to go visit Los Angeles too because I need to visit you, and
Yes.
I need to visit
So Christian Slater wears a Jailhouse Rock t-shirt in this part, which kind of foreshadows his character's obsession with Elvis in True Romance. And
This made me feel obsessed with Elvis. I was like, I want to buy a bunch of Elvis stuff.
Stephen Bauer is sweaty as fuck here. In fact, they both are, which is just kind of a nice touch as to maybe Robert Gwynn doesn't have air conditioning. And let's see. And there's a Ninja movie poster on Robert Gwynn's wall that I may have seen that movie when I was a kid. And this is where Stephen Bauer tells him the story about how he was a screw-up kid too. And now look at how lowly his status is in Orange County. He's squatting in the home of a shitty murderer. There's no AC in it. So Christian Slater has this list of phone numbers, and he uses the payphone to try to get them. He gets this automobile club, and then he gets the video store, and then he skates to the police station, and he gets the ear flicked again by Stephen Bauer, and he finds out that no one is going to call his brother's death a murder still. And let's see.
The parents seem to really not care about
Yeah.
at all.
Even though Ed Lauder is like really affected by the death of Vin.
Yeah, the parents. No, totally. But the parents like don't seem affected by it at all. Like, I don't even know if we've gotten to this like point yet, but like Christian Slater is also moving in on his brother's like Asian girlfriend, like Hunter Biden style.
Or rather, like we're not there yet, but it's the other way around. She's moving in on him. It's like he's kind of like he's just trying to investigate, and she's all about him.
I don't know. They're about each other.
So I read it the opposite way, where he's like, "Can I ask you something personal? Where's the bathroom?" You know, like it's like I feel like he had his eyes on the prize and respecting Vin until pretty much the very end of it.
I interpreted like he was just fine to like move in on his brother's.
Yeah, like when he asks her if they can, because he's like trying to do all this investigating, we're almost there, and when he asks her, she first says like, "Oh, I can't hang out with white boys even as friends," and or something like that. And the way she says it, it's like she immediately, it seems like, is already considering that he's hitting on her and that she's kind of into it. In fact, maybe very into it. Yeah, it was very, very disrespectful of Vin. And then later, when she spends the night at his house and they're flirting, she sleeps in Vin's bed.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, here's a part where he asks him, he's at the police station and finds out that nobody's going to call him murder. And Slater's talking about that list and calling the video store. He's like, I think they might be mixed up in drugs. And Stephen Bauer says, drugs? And I think he was way too interested. He really wanted some drugs. And then we get more angsty skating in that under construction parking garage at sunset after the cops blow him off.
There's a lot of like just weird like transitions to like skateboarding tricks.
And in this part, the wig on the stunt double was pretty funny. I feel like in this sunset skating in the parking garage, you could definitely tell it's not Christian Slater. But then it's still sunset when he goes to the grave of Vin and talks about how he misses him and he hates doing his own homework. And then now this is where he meets the ex-girlfriend of Vin, or Vin's widow girlfriend. And he buys her a Coke Classic and one for himself. And I miss the huge block buttons on vending machines that you had to mash really hard to get your Coke or make sure it really pressed in.
I haven't used a vending machine in ages.
I looked at one at like the last hotel I was at. But you know how hotels, everything's like massively expensive. I just said, screw it, I'm not buying one. He finds out that her dad, the colonel, won't let white boys around her, even just as friends, and especially ones not ones dressed like Christian Slater is dressed. So then we have the makeover sequence where Christian Slater changes his entire lifestyle and fashion and just his room too. Why?
Because it has to be truly believable to everyone.
Just in case the colonel comes to his room.
Yeah.
He finds all his church clothes. He cuts his own hair and then he starts dressing really preppy.
And then his dad sees him and crashes the car. He's so surprised. And his mom is like so excited, and I'm like, this is confusing because didn't his mom like him as like a skater boy? Like, why is she?
I would think she'd be troubled at the end.
Yeah, me
like
too.
Such a drastic change. Me too. So Slater he now rides a bicycle instead of skateboard, and he has this like soft briefcase he carries now, kind of a proto-man purse. And then he goes to Kelly's ex's house, the colonel's house, and he's dressed in a coat and tie. And her mom invites him in for tea. Slater's like, he has like a million questions for the colonel about what happened in Vietnam.
Yeah, and he's literally wearing a suit to like take this girl to the movie.
Yeah, or the mall, yeah.
Which I don't know about the 80s or whatever. That seems pretty crazy to wear a suit to take someone on a date in high school.
Yeah, but I like it too, just how much he wants to ask the colonel questions. Like when he immediately is meeting him for the first time. He's like, I've got a million questions. But anyway, the colonel doesn't give them any answers. He's like, maybe some other time. And he won't let them have the tea. And then he tells them to get moving. So they go to a mall, but we just see them leaving the mall. And this is where you find out she thinks it's a date because she's like, well, why do we always keep talking about me? Why don't I ask you some stuff? What about skating? How does it make you feel? Or something like that. Because that's why I was saying he's really been eyes on the prize. Because when he goes to her house, like he just wants to talk to the colonel. And where they're leaving, you find out like he's really just been like hammering her about this murder case the whole time.
I think that's true, but like I don't know why. I just get like a vibe like he likes her too. Like I don't know. I think that's a weird like I don't know. I think it's weird that he's just a little too convincing. He's a little too convincing in his. If he's just there to try to investigate the murder of his brother and avenge the murder of his brother, he seems a little too into her for that. Does he really have to take her on a date, or can he just?
No, he doesn't. I guess maybe he needs to go to her house to see what's up with the colonel.
But couldn't he just be like, I want to talk to you about my brother's murder or something?
What if there was a sequence where he just started trying to hang out at the Vietnamese video store like he was a customer? Like, the Bon Market section. Yes, this looks good. So So then he goes home, and this is where we have like depressed Ed Lauder watching the home videos of like of Christian Slater ruining their frisbee game, just refusing to catch the frisbee, and he's crying. He's holding that TV remote that's bigger than the TV. And Slater comes and asks him about his feelings, and like Slater's kind of the dad here, and he tells him, Ed Lauder apologizes for being a shittier dad to him than Vin, but Slater's like, you took me to Disneyland. He's like, you were 6. It was once. He's like, yeah, I got thrown out for pissing on Donald Duck. Let's see. Then we see now they're like at the beach, or like not really the beach, I guess. They're at the what we just call the pier, the docks, the boardwalk or whatever. They're on the coast. His buddies are skating, but Christian Slater has the bike. And the friends joke that next he'll have a scooter, like Vin had. Or maybe they mean an unmotorized scooter, I don't know. And they want to go scout pools. They're not very sensitive about him just losing a friend either, at all. They're kind of dicks to him.
Yeah, his friends are assholes. They just disappear, and then they're not really very sensitive.
Until the end, where they're very much there for him. Then we get the martial arts demonstration in the park, and it's like a Vietnamese anti-communist relief fund fundraiser. And I think that, this is something kind of interesting. Like, do you know any Vietnamese people?
Not super well. I mean,
like
I don't
every
think
Vietnamese person that I've ever met I've never met any that are in Vietnam, but they're all like Republicans. They're all like right wing. So
most of the people I know who come from like socialist or communist countries are super right wing.
And Evil Whitey is there, and Slater goes to we have this, and then Slater goes to this is where we have him like trying the food, and he talks to the girlfriend again. I don't know if we really get much plot stuff there, but maybe
it's just like Vietnamese food is gross, and she's like, no, it's not, and that's pretty much the gist of that.
Yeah, I think he said it looked weird and he didn't try it before, but he'd give it a shot today or something.
And it's like not even gross, it's like normal.
No, it looks really normal. Especially like, like if you're from a more cosmopolitan
it's just
place,
like chicken or something. It's not anything weird.
So he goes now to the West Side Medical Supply. There is no open transom into the ladies' room, so he's now skating, and so he now is like, he's kind of in a hybrid outfit here where he's half conservative and half wearing his skateboarding outfit again, and he's skating. He sneaks into the roof and he starts a snooping, and then he uses his skateboard to bust open a crate instead of like finding tools left lying around like Vin did. And then Whitey the next day, he tells the colonel that somebody broke in and opened a crate and found rifles and ammunition. And this is where I think is where the first time we find out that they've been dealing arms illegally. I don't think up until this point we know that they've had that it's not drugs or medical supplies. So this is like, now we have Slater and the brother's ex-girlfriend sitting by the fire. And Slater said that he used to want to be a veterinarian. This is another kind of pump up the volume scene where he talks about how, you're just taking care of them just so they can become McDonald's burgers or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is where he asks her where the bathroom is, but instead goes to the colonel's office, which we know is the colonel's office. What's that?
He goes to Snoop. This is the only scene to me where you're like, oh, okay, he's not trying to move in on his brother's ex. He really is just trying to investigate his dead brother's murder. But before that, it's unclear to me.
Yeah, they're like sitting by the fire. Yeah. And we know it's the colonel's office because of his beloved Rams hat. He gets caught by the girlfriend, and she didn't tell her parents that he was coming. So that's why we know she's really into him. She's like keeping secrets from her parents to have him over. And then she sneaks him out the back way because they've shown up. And then he's at home. Now we get into some crazy stuff. He siphons gas at home, and then he skates to the Western Medical Supply, and he gets over barbed wire like super easily using his like coat and he's like his thickness of his skating jacket and his skateboard, like gets over this. He hops a fence that's really high, and it has a like scary looking barbed wire, and he takes it like it's nothing. Then he skates around once he's there, and then he finds out where security is. They have like a portable building, and they're out doing rounds. Then he hides under the security trailer, and he takes out the blocks that are holding it in place. Then he puts like some Black Cats or M80s in the thing, or sets them on fire and throws them inside the portable as a diversion. And I feel like when they explode, they give off a ton of light, which I don't think they really do in real life.
Definitely not.
And Slater's skating around under the vehicles on his belly on the skateboard. I feel like this may be the only time he didn't have a stunt double for the skating. And now he's wearing the Rams hat, and he locks the security guys in the trailer when they go to check out the diversion. But then he's like, his plan is so intricate. He really is good at chess, because he's set this thing. It's really like he's locked them in there not for his own protection, but for theirs. Because he now pushes the trailer and has it roll gently to safety before he sets off an explosion with the gasoline of this petroleum tank that was right by their security trailer. And then he blows up a tank outside the building. Then he gets up on the roof with binoculars and watches the fire department and Lawndale show up. And he left the Rams hat, so they think the colonel's there. And this is where it starts to rain, which was kind of odd that he notes that it's like, oh, it's raining. But we find out later why. It's very tenuous. So then we see also here, this is where Whitey uses the car phone to call the colonel, and he's really angry because he thinks the colonel has some part in this, and the colonel's just confused. And this is where the wife finds out that they're mixed up in this arms dealing thing. And she's like, I thought we were done with the war. And they tell the daughter she needs to leave to find safety. Then we get Bauer going to the Kelly household, where it has now stopped raining. Now in real life, rain stops and starts, but there's a weird line in this scene where Christian Slater just says like, oh, it stopped raining, or something like that. Because in the next scene, when the girl shows up, she's soaking wet. And I really think they just had to reshoot this scene and couldn't shoot it on a day where they could make the rain machines or something. Did you notice this?
Yeah.
So he's before we get there though, Stephen Bauer tells Christian Slater that he knows he set the fire, but he can't prove it. And he tells Slater that he knows he doesn't like rules. And this is where I really got some cocaine vibes from Stephen Bauer, especially in this particular scene. Maybe because it was a reshoot. He didn't expect, maybe he was like not in prime form for it. But yeah, this is where Slater points out the rain has stopped. And then we go into Christian Slater's room, and the ex-girlfriend shows up in the window here, the classic Soon Yi scene, and she's distraught. Christian Slater's in his boxers and a t-shirt. She opens up to him, and she's now in love with him, but she spends the night in her dead ex's bed, and she wakes up at 6 a.m. and it's all cold.
She's not upset about her ex at all. Mm-mm. Like, there's never a moment where she's upset.
No, she grieves not at all.
Never.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, no.
Sleeping in his bed, like in your dead ex's bed, like no emotion.
He gives her his sweater, and she kisses his cheek, but then she finds her dad's Zippo lighter that he took from the office. I forgot to mention that. And Slater tells her the whole thing of what's up, because her parents told her she had to like get out of there or something, but they didn't tell her why. And so he tells her that he's been investigating this whole thing and stuff. And then she goes home and confronts her dad, and then he comes clean to her and tells her what's up. And then he calls Lawndale and tells Lawndale about Slater. And Lawndale has a cool pool phone, so you know that he's extra evil and rich, not just in it for to help the anti-communists. Then this is where Lawndale, I guess, calls in a motorcycle gang of Vietnamese guys, or just some motorcyclists, to corral and frighten him, to deliver the message that he wants to talk to him, but also maybe run him off the road and kill him. And let's see here. The stunt double kind of gets a workout here. Whitey rolls up in a caddy, and Slater hitches away on a sweet van. And then the motorcyclists tell him that Whitey wants to meet up with him. Slater says no and skates away, chased by motorbikers this is a big downhill skating scene where he just skates downhill faster and faster, and these guys on motorcycles can't catch him, which I found fairly unrealistic. And
yeah, it's preposterous. Like, that's a ridiculous scene. This whole sequence is absolutely ridiculous. There's an exploding through a window scene, which is my fave. I don't know if I've talked about this on this podcast before, but I'm a huge Death Wish fan, and any movie where someone just explodes through a window is 100% my vibe.
And they eventually run him off the road into some bushes, and he hangs out in the bushes like in the Robin Hood trading card. He has when he gets up, or maybe even before this, his jeans have a really dirty ass. Did you catch that?
No, I did not make a note of that.
He has a nice dirty ass. Yeah, I guess the Vietnamese motorcyclist went to the cops, because he goes to the cops cops, and Bauer has a statement saying they say he called them gay and ethnic slurs, and that's why they ran him off the road. So then he got a nice siren.
That was like one of the funniest parts of the movie, where like Stephen Bauer like repeats like a bunch of like alleged ethnic slurs that Christian Slater supposedly used.
Somebody's in trouble. So Bauer questions the cyclists now, and they play dumb. And then we cut to Slater goes to Yabo's to get a new skateboard with special specifications. And I made a note, we kind of cut back and forth between the Yabo's clubhouse and, geez, a lot of police action right now.
A guy freaking killed himself. He walked outside in my neighborhood on Saturday when we were originally supposed to do this podcast, I think. And he shot himself in the head, like right outside of my house.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so fucked up. He got in a fight with his wife, walked out of his house, and just blew his brains out in the street. You can like walk outside and see a bunch of blood in the street.
Wow.
Yeah. Super
Did you know him?
No.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so crazy. But anyway.
Ooh, rough.
Yeah.
So at any rate, on the flip side of committing suicide in the street, I made a note that Stephen Bauer is wearing two very crazy white short sleeve shirts, one on top of the other. You need to go back if you didn't note this. And
yeah.
look at these two. He's wearing a short sleeve white polo shirt underneath like a white short sleeve Henley with a pocket that's like got only one button, and it's way down here. It's like a V-neck white shirt with like a one button here. It's very strange.
Yeah, no, I need to go back and look at his sartorial choices in that scene. I don't remember, but I just remember the end of the movie where like him and Christian Slater are like BFFs.
Yes, they bring in a translator, but a police translator for the Vietnamese cyclist, but the cyclists don't know he's a translator, and they start talking some shit in Vietnamese, and apparently just say Lawndale's name in their 1 second of shit talking, and like Stephen Bauer's like, "Ooh, busted! We got all we need." And then we go back to the bomb shelter, and Slater's asking for these faster black wheels, and Yabo cautions him that they're a rougher ride. And then Bauer goes to Slater's house, but Slater is gone. He finds the lighter now on the chessboard, and Slater has the new board ready, and he tells Yabo to call up all the guys. And so
what role did the guys play in this? Like, is another question that I have. Like, I don't know if I'm just not remembering it properly, but like the gang of like Tony Hawk and like all these people like disappears for a while, and like basically the whole movie you don't see them, and then they appear again for this last scene of the movie, like the last 15 minutes, but like what do they do in this? Like, I don't remember them having any role at all.
One thing I do know is that when he calls the guy that works at Pizza Hut, the guy has 2 phones in his room. It's like he answers. I don't know if he uses them both in the scene. Like he answers the one phone, and there's another phone next to it. And then
don't you, Oswald Ramirez have 2 phones?
Hey, it's 2021.
Anyway.
So I guess all the guys are going to meet at the Pizza Hut and get in his Pizza Hut truck for his Pizza Hut deliveries. Then we get Slater skating on the new board. We have another skating montage. And I like both this and when he's trying to get away here, where there's like a chase later, he pauses to do tricks and stuff, or just takes time out as he's like trying to do like life and death situations to make sure he does sweet like ollies or whatever they are. Anyway, so like, yeah, he goes to the guys all convene at the Pizza Hut, and then Slater's at the Colonel's house, and he sees Lawndale there. Slater's like watching him from the bushes or something, and Lawndale's inside, and the Colonel's been trying to get packed up and flee to Bangkok, and Lawndale instead takes the daughter hostage, then kills the Colonel, and then he takes the daughter as Stephen Bauer shows up on the scene, and this is where Slater busts through the window. And Stephen Bauer tells Slater to call an ambulance. Lawndale runs off in the police car with the daughter as a hostage, and then he gets a second hostage who I believe is a Vietnamese cop. I was a little confused as to who this guy even was. And yeah, he runs off, and then he's like, Lawndale's a menace to the Vietnamese community of Anaheim.
He is such a menace.
When Slater shows Bauer how to start a car without keys with this like tool he keeps on him, that was pretty crazy. And then Slater calls the Pizza Hut payphone, and Yabo answers, and he gives them the address, and he gives them an address to go to and new news of the stolen police car. I guess then we get Bauer and Slater in the car together in hot pursuit. There's a part where Christian Slater's gonna like jump out and just opens the door and the door gets knocked off. And then Stephen Bauer has like a talking car computer. That was pretty crazy.
There's also like a scene at the beginning too that I forgot where they have like weird little laptops.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, there's like a scene at the beginning where they have laptops and they're so weird.
Bauer gets stuck and Slater gets stuck in behind a wreck that gets caused by the chase. And Bauer wants a guy to move, and he flashes his badge at this hilarious-looking guy with a mullet and a woody wagon. And then the Slater jumps out, and he starts pursuing, and then he skitches on the back. I guess it's not called hitching; it's called skitching when you skate and are grabbing on the back of a vehicle. And he's skitching on the back of a terrorist van. And then they go through like a dry creek bed underpass thing, where he skates through it. And this is what I really remember from being a kid is that we really had these dry cement creek beds in Oklahoma, and my cousin and his friends, that would be their cool place to skate, and it was very cool. Like watching them do cool skating down there and stuff. It was perfect. They didn't have any empty swimming pools, but they had that. And he does, yeah, this is where he does some tricks as you would do in a life and death chase. And all the skaters arrive on the at the top of it, like a crest of a road. The skaters all skate up in a line, a horizontal line, like the Wild Bunch in slow motion, with the truck driving 1 mile an hour behind them. And then they meet up with Slater, and the cop car hits, like Lawndale being driven by the Asian, the Vietnamese driver, which we're not going to stoop to doing Asian getaway driver jokes. Slater, he tells the guy that caught Pitt that he can go road rage on that car because it wasn't a real cop. And then Slater hitches a ride on the back of that convertible. And I guess the guy that's playing the road rager was one of the stunt directors or second unit directors or something like of the movie, Buddy Joe Hooker. I don't know if he's a skater or what, but that guy's playing the road rage guy. And he tells him to follow Stephen Bauer because Bauer goes past them there at some point where they're driving. And Bauer also meets up with a real cop car and so now we've got like 3 cars in pursuit plus Slater, I guess 4 with the pizza truck. And the pizza truck has all the skaters in it, and the Pizza Hut truck's car horn is a cavalry horn. Do you remember this? Like
I don't really remember anything about the gang. Like once the gang gets back together, I don't remember much of it after Christian Slater like exploding through a window.
There's a cool part where Christian Slater is 2 lanes over from the Pizza Hut truck in traffic or something, and he his stunt double has to skate underneath a semi truck bed, and then he does it and he hooks onto the Pizza Hut truck, and then the semi truck driver's looks all impressed by the trick, and it's I would be too. That's pretty sweet. There's a massive pile up, and Stephen Bauer gets wrecked, and then Bauer starts shooting. I guess Lawndale starts trying to run away, and Bauer starts shooting at them. And this is the big part where Christian Slater flies on a skateboard and whacks Lawndale with it and knocks Lawndale unconscious and saves the day and falls down. And then the ex-girlfriend and Stephen Bauer are now administering to Christian Slater, who's injured on the ground. And Yabo's there too. And Slater bitches about the trucks on the skateboard not being tightened enough. And Slater has another big injury on his left cheek, which he had an injury on earlier in the movie as well. Bad movie for his left cheek. Now we are at the last scene of the movie, where Christian Slater is now outside the hospital recuperating in a wheelchair, and the girlfriend is visiting him, and she doesn't want to go back to school, and Slater's like, wait till I get out of here, we'll go back together. He strokes her hair. And then I guess we have one last part with the real couple of the movie, where Slater's at the brother's grave, at Vin's grave, and Stephen Bauer's there with him, and it grips the back of his neck all crazily in this scene. And then one of my favorite lines of the movie is Stephen Bauer and Slater are talking about how Christian Slater's relationship has changed with his parents now. He's trying harder and stuff, and he's like, well, now they talk to me instead of just at me or about me or something like that. And Bauer's like, are you listening to your parents or are you just waiting to answer back? And Slater says, huh?
My like favorite scene is like the very end of the movie where like he's talking to the Asian girlfriend and she's talking about her like dead father or whatever, and she like doesn't even care about she doesn't care about her dead boyfriend, she doesn't care about her dead father.
Or her acting career. And then we have the end credits where it's like not convincing at all. Slater's stunt double just does tons of tricks.
Yeah, there's just tons of skateboarding, like sweet skateboarding tricks.
I guess co-second unit director on this movie was Stacy Peralta, the big skating guy. And for research, I watched a couple of skate movies. And he has one called like the Bones Crew Skate Show, Bones Brigade Video Show from like 1983 or something. And it's like an hour-long skate movie, no-budget documentary, and I kind of liked it. It was really kind of a fun snapshot of 1983, like more like Venice Beach it looked like they were hanging out at. And I was like, this is kind of a good movie.
Yeah.
Then I watched...
I can imagine something that hot, like this is like a movie that like somebody wanted to make about skateboarding, like doing skateboarding tricks, and they created a plot around that.
Well, you know who wrote this is actually probably the most successful behind the scenes person in this movie, perhaps, is a guy named Michael Tolkien, who wrote the novel The Player, that the movie The Player is written on. And he has like a huge career as a writer for TV and the movies. He wrote the screenplay for the movie Nine, starring Daniel Day-Lewis. He wrote that TV show Escape from Dannemora, which one of the scariest things I've ever seen is one episode of that show, Escape from Dannemora.
I've only seen the first one or two episodes.
The second to last episode of that show is like a backstory episode where it shows you like how everybody got to the jail, like how both those guys got busted and put in prison.
Because I'm so interested in the real story, but then when I went to watch the show, I was kind of like, eh.
Yeah, the show is just too long and it's like one of those things where it should have been a 3-hour movie, but instead it's an 8-hour TV show, and it really drags. But this one episode, when they show the backstory of Benicio del Toro's character, oh my gosh, I didn't want to leave my house. Like, I was like, there are people like that right now. That's a real guy. And he really did those things. And could happen to anybody. It's like so real. Like, it's like he's a drug addict who decided to rob his boss. Then his raw boss found out, and he just decided to murder him so he wouldn't go to jail. And it's all done in them like this. It's scary as hell. This guy, he's written a ton of movies and TV. He writes Ray Donovan and stuff. And yeah, he wrote Changing Lanes, the Ben Affleck, Samuel L. Jackson movie.
I have never watched Ray Donovan. My dad's obsessed with it. And he's like, I hear every dad is obsessed with Ray Donovan.
I've never seen it either.
He's always like, watch Ray Donovan. I'm like,
I love, as we talked about before, I love Ray Liotta. And I kind of think about watching it because I just like to see Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, did you watch the Sopranos movie?
No. I really do like the Sopranos TV show, and I've watched it twice during like the last year.
Oh wow!
The entire series. But I did not watch the movie.
I'm be curious to see what you think of that Sopranos movie. I watched it.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
But
What did you think of Saint Maud?
Oh, I wanted to ask you about that too. I thought it was more interesting than entertaining.
And spoilers.
I really didn't have a good time watching it, except for towards the end, I realized where it was going to go and what it was doing, kind of with like maybe a quarter of the movie left. And then I was more okay with it because I started to realize that you're not watching a movie about a religious person, you're watching a movie about an insane person. And it really is a good depiction of what people that are insane are like.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking like, man, this movie seems like it's just written by some atheistic kind of anti-Jesus person and not very like well thought out at all. And I started thinking like, no, actually, it's trying to say this Saint Maud lady isn't into Jesus at all or isn't into Christianity at all. Like, she never goes to church. She never reads the Bible. That lady that she's taking care of gives her a book on William Blake, like a Taschen book more or less. But instead of reading it, which William Blake was a strong Christian, like she just posts up the trippy pictures on the wall. And by the end, I was like, oh yeah, they're really just, I just spoiler on that movie as well. They're really just saying this lady's a murderer. And I was like a lot more comfortable with the movie, but I still found it not super entertaining. But I did think it was kind of smart.
Yeah, I really like it, but I was curious what you would think of it. I still need to watch Hereditary. I still haven't watched it.
That's one that I don't like as much until the very end. Then at the end, like I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of fun when it really goes crazy. But what did you like about the movie?
About Saint Maud?
Yes.
I don't know. I just really liked it. I don't know. Like my friend had been trying to get me to watch it forever and ever. And I don't really, as I said, I don't really like spooky stuff. So I was like, I don't know. But then when I was in Texas, she watched it with me and I just really liked it. It was just kind of like my cup of tea, I guess, especially for a horror movie, which I'm not usually into. But I don't know. I just really liked it. I can't pick out anything in particular, but
It was kind of like Taxi Driver with a lady.
I can see that. I don't really like Taxi Driver.
So I love Taxi Driver.
But but I can see that comparison. Yeah.
The medical examiner in this movie was played by a guy named J.J. Saunders, who I imagine is the brother of J.O. Sanders and O.J. Simpson. And then there was a song called Right Now by Johnny Raff. I don't know that. And then, we were talking about Ray Donovan. Speaking of mob stuff and The Sopranos, Graham Clifford, the director of this, he directed Mario Puzo's The Last Dawn and The Last Dawn 2 miniseries. Did you ever watch these when you were younger or now?
No.
They're both on YouTube and they're pretty funny. But they're pretty entertaining, but they're like this. They're directed pretty shittily. Like they seem like they could have done better with the director, but still they move along pretty well. And the first one has Daryl Hannah in it, but then the second one, she's barely in it, so they recast her, which is some no-name blonde. I was thinking, shouldn't they recast Daryl Hannah with Daryl Hammond? He's a good impressionist. But a crazy thing was they were on CBS, and The Last Dawn 2 on YouTube has tons of nudity in it.
Oh, weird.
And I was like, this has to be from some like DVD director's cut or foreign version or something. There's no way this played on CBS. It wouldn't play on CBS now, much less in 1998 or whenever it was on. It was strange. Like it had boobs and stuff, but they were also kind of gratuitous. Like no one said an important line in the story in a shot with a boob in it. Yeah, this clearly was not on TV. And yeah, I watched that Bones Brigade show. I also watched Video Days, directed by Spike Jonze from like the early 90s. So they had Jason Lee before he was an actor in it when he was a skater, and he had a unibrow. I did not really enjoy that.
My dad's ex-girlfriend is like best friends with Daryl Hannah and claims she has had no plastic surgery. And I'm like, if you say so.
I haven't seen her in forever that I can think of.
Yeah, she looks like she's had some work done. But according to my dad's ex-girlfriend, she gets mad if you suggest it.
Oh, that movie Special Ops that the guy that played Vin edited and Stephen Bauer is. It's an action movie. And the main guy in it, he and this other dude are trying to steal a plane from some kind of plane, kind of like in the beginning of Gleaming the Cube, just some like private tiny plane.
So it's basically like the same movie in a lot of
He
ways.
goes up to the guy, and his trick to do it, the guy like talking to him, and he's like, my friend wants to sit inside a plane, and the main guy pretends to be mentally challenged to be like, oh, I like planes. Then he offers this Filipino guy $10 to go to a vending machine and get him a soda, and the Filipino guy's like, this guy really is stupid, and goes and does it, and they steal the plane. It was really crazy. I guess
that was such a thing in the day, like having like a mentally challenged character.
The day of 2010.
I feel like in the 90s, or like that's such a huge thing. Like every single movie has that, and you're like, this is so weird and crazy. That's something that I cringe at, honestly, watching like a lot of movies from that time. Like even rewatching Buffalo 66, which was my favorite movie forever that I hate as an adult.
Sure.
Another movie that has like a mentally challenged character where you're just like, ugh.
Wait, is Kevin Corrigan mentally challenged in it? Is
Who
that who he is? The
I
brother
don't
from Goodfellas?
I think probably it's him, but like
It's been a while since
he
I've seen
plays
it.
like Goon or whatever. And
Yeah, it's Kevin Corrigan. He's a good actor though.
yeah.
But yeah,
And yeah,
not the best.
I just have it's so crazy because that was always my favorite movie, and I wish I hadn't rewatched it as a grown person because I have no patience for it as an adult.
Well, let's go to the Slater Rater. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate the movie?
Okay, in spite of the fact that I like the movie, like I feel like I have to rate it on like an objective scale
It's
of like
tough.
how good I really think the movie is. So I'm gonna say a 5.
Man, it's really tough. I'm going to go with a 6. And it's making me wish that I also had given, what's-his-face, Pub of the Volume a 6. But I'm going to give this a 6. I can't quite go 7. I feel like it's about, I don't know. Yeah, I do feel like it's entertaining.
It's super entertaining and I like it a lot, but it's a 5.
And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate Christian Slater's performance?
I'll say a 7.
I'm gonna go with, I gotta take off points for him not doing the skating. If he could have done more of his own stunts, like in Broken Arrow, that would have been way better, I think. So I'm gonna go with an 8. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how hunky did you find him?
I'm gonna give him an 8 for this one.
I think it's gonna be my second 10 in a row that we've done. I'm gonna give him a 10. I don't know how much hunkier you could be than Christian Slater in this movie. This is some prime Tiger Beat kind of stuff here.
This is definitely the hunkiest of any movie that he's been in for me, for sure. But that's an 8.
Yeah, fair. He's also blonder in this movie.
Yeah, I think it's just, his like skate boy style is like
Do you think it's dyed or do you think it's from a lot of sun?
I think it's dyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the final category, how much more Christian Slater did you want in the movie? Negative points.
I'm gonna say a 0. Like he's in it like the right amount.
Fair. I'm gonna go with a 0 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's in a ton of the movie. I don't remember, there's not, other than when they kill Vin, which was pretty cool, and when Stephen Bauer questions the motorcyclists, he's in pretty much all of the movie.
Yeah.
I think this is probably going to be yet another F. Well, I don't know. Yeah, the 6 and the 5 make it rough. It's going to be somewhere in the D or F range. Are you reading anything right now?
I am. I'm reading Heart of a Dog, which is by like the guy who wrote Master and Margarita.
Oh, I've heard of that, but I don't remember the man's name.
It's like Mikhail Bugulov or something. He's like a Russian guy. I'm reading that book because it's really more of like a short, it's like a novella kind of, but I'm reading that because I'm going to discuss it with like some weird man soon. So
did you read The Master and Margarita?
I did, yeah.
How was that?
It's really good, but I like everything that's like, I like Faustian kind of stuff. So yeah, I really like Master and Margarita too.
I've been reading Midsummer Night's Dream. I'm in Act 5, so I'll probably finish it the next day or something. It's not probably my favorite Shakespeare play at all. I only really like the parts where the actors are going to put on the show. But it had a line that I liked that was like pretty much where I left off, was the king, he's there, his assistant's trying to talk him out of letting these guys put on this play. And he's telling them like, hey, these guys are workmen and they never put their mind to any matter before this. This is going to be a really crappy play. And the king says, I will hear the play, for never anything can be amiss when simpleness and duty tender it. And I was like, that's how I feel about a lot of things in life. I thought it was pretty good.
I remember I did theater my whole life. I actually like wanted to major in theater originally, which thank God I didn't. Although what I did major in is just as stupid as theater, obviously. But I remember liking A Midsummer Night's Dream for Shakespeare. I'm not a big Shakespeare fan, to be honest, but A Midsummer Night's Dream is a kind of a fun one.
See, I love Shakespeare, but this one I haven't really enjoyed as much.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Shakespeare person, but I like the stuff that's a little lighter actually more.
I'm kind of the opposite. I like the more, I don't know, I read earlier this year, Measure for Measure, and I liked that one even though it's very, very light. But I liked it even though it had like this terrible conceit that there's this king that just goes on vacation and dresses up as a monk, and then he's like going to help everybody in the end of it, and you know from the start that he's going to set everything right, but he's like lets everybody almost get murdered before he does it for no reason other than just so the play can be 5 acts.
That's kind of like the Bible too. There's a lot of biblical stories that are that way.
Fair. Well, I mean, you know, in Genesis, like, why even make a tree you're not supposed to eat off of, and tell him, you know, don't eat off that tree.
Just cause it's fun.
Yeah, it's a test you.
Fun to fuck with people.
And you already know because you're God that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that brings to close this episode of this edition of the Christian Slater Monitor. Next time, Elston Gunn will be back to discuss the 1993 box office bomb, True Romance.